Welcome in. You already know what time it is. Alex Cloninger in the building. Let's dive into the Nexus. Let's dive into the Nexus. Step into the zone. Carolina stories got a life of their home. From the pages to the labs, yeah, we break it all down. If you love those books, you're at the right sound. Let's dive into the Nexus. Yeah, the mic stay reckless. Hometown justice, legends in the message. Casey Elkins on the trail, solving cases non-stop. Turn it up loud, yeah, the Nexus don't stop. We talk block twists, characters, theories. Author Q&A, getting answers you've been hearing. Special guests slide through, pull up a seat. Chaotic conversations with the Carolina heat. From small town drama to the mysteries deep. Every chapter got secrets we're ready to keep. Laughs laid back, but the energy wild. If you read Cloninger, you already family now. Let's dive into the Nexus, step into the zone. Carolina stories got a life of their own. From the pages to the laughs, yeah, we break it all down. If you love those books, you're at the right sound. Let's dive into the Nexus, come and connect us. Alex Cloninger live, yeah, you rockin' with the Nexus. Hit play, stay tuned. Every episode fresh. Welcome to the Carolina Nexus. Brought to you straight from Carolina soil. Press play and let's dive in.
Welcome to the Carolina Nexus, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're finishing up yesterday's episode. We're talking about Special Agent Cassandra Casey Lynn Elkins. Her name's at the bottom of the screen for those of you that are uninformed. Give a special thanks to our sponsor, Dubby. Go to w.gg, use the coupon code CARONEXUS for 10% off your first order. Absolutely delicious. I have mine right here, ladies and gentlemen. Couple of other announcements before we dive in. Had a very successful event yesterday. Before the show, I was able to deliver a care package to a coworker of mine who helped me get to where I'm at. I say coworker, but she was my supervisor. She was my store manager. So if you see Cindy from the company I worked for today, give her a hug. Tell her thank you from Carolina Nexus and from Alex Cloninger. We truly appreciate the love and support she gave us while you're there. If you see Dawn Griffin, give her a hug because she misses me. I love you, Dawn. Hate that I couldn't be there with you today. But that's beside the point. Other news. We are still running the Hometown Justice Hostile contest. Anyone who can design a book cover for Hometown Justice Hostile, design it, send it to me. I have a team of judges that's going to judge and help choose the best. And whoever's image wins will get a unedited copy of Hometown Justice Hostile. Anyways, we're about to dive in. Miss Ballou says good morning. Good morning, Miss Ballou. Since you missed the episode yesterday, we talked about the Casey Elkins series, The Idol, and The Daywalker, the only two books in that series. But we mainly talked about the main character, Casey, and her best friend, Amber Collins, and how Amber is based off my wife, and Casey's based off my best friend from high school / my co-author for the series. The segment talking about Casey was cut short due to technical issues and having to leave to go take care of the baby. So we're hoping to not get torn apart today. All the technical issues have been solved. We're going to dive into Casey Elkins here in just a moment. I have a few more announcements to make. So hey, bear with us, Miss Ballou. First things first, mark your calendars, check out TCW No Escape, March 21st at historic Shelby City Park. High octane, high impact, highly entertaining wrestling coming to Shelby right here in the heart of Flair Country. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot miss this show. It's going to be absolute insanity. You can see at the bottom of the page, Peterbilt, Brian Thrill, Scotty Claymore, the American Diesel Dump Truck, Just to name a few. Do my eyes deceive me, or do I see Robert Mack's name on that flyer? If I see Robert Mack's name on that flyer, ladies and gentlemen, you know it's going to be a banger. Robert Mack's one of the best here in the Carolinas. I have respected this man since I met him years and years ago in 2009. Check him out. You won't be disappointed. Gemstone Championship Wrestling, bringing the women's revolution of professional wrestling to Flair Country with an all-female promotion, April 18th. Mark your calendars for that one. It's a joint show with Snoo. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm excited. I think women wrestlers are some of the best wrestlers in the business today. I hope and pray they have the pinnacle of women's wrestling, of professional wrestling in the Carolinas. Mila Johnson on this show. It just wouldn't be right without her, and that's my 2 cents, but I'm just a nobody. I don't know what I'm talking about. Gemstone Championship Wrestling, Icebreaker, April 18th. Mark your calendars. While you're at the TCW show, March 21st, or any other show this man is on, check out his merch table for Diesel Honey. I've got mine ordered. I hope and pray it's as good as he says it is. I will give you guys a live on-screen testing. Amber's checked in. We're going to give time for a few more people to come on while I make a few more announcements. So we did not get to finish Casey Elkins' discussion yesterday. That's the only reason I'm live on Wednesday. But on that note, this will be the last Wednesday show for the foreseeable future. My schedule has been changed. I'm going to work first shift for the foreseeable future, and that means my shows will now be late afternoon. So we're talking about 6, maybe 7 o'clock. Earliest to be 5 p.m., latest to be 7. Bear with me as I go through this change. So tomorrow's episode will not be 10 a.m. Tomorrow's episode will be at 6 in the afternoon. That's designed so Caitlin can come on and we can discuss some Casey Elkins characters with her because she's missed the last few shows, but she's mad she missed the Casey Elkins show yesterday. We're going to do it again tomorrow for her. She's got questions she wants to ask to piggyback off of Amber's questions because her and Amber are the biggest supporters of this series. And I've decided I'm not doing the spinning wheel tomorrow. We're going to discuss Rigo Balderas and Aiden Kenta for tomorrow's episodes. So for those of you that write your questions down or give multiple questions, those are the questions you need to plan for. Rigo Balderas and Aiden Kenta. Also, I mentioned that I took some books to my former supervisor, Cindy, at my place of employment. She is the first person that I know with this cover physically in her hands for Hometown Justice Homecoming, designed by Scott Larson, and she says it was absolutely beautiful. Scott, you did an amazing job. I can't wait to see what you come up for the other 2 books in the first trilogy. Hopefully, they are just as good, if not better than this one. I know you'll do your best. And now other people will know you do your best because Cindy is promoting these books. She's ecstatic. She's a reader, and my wife and I got her these books to show that we thank her for everything that she's done for our family. It was a gift from the heart because she helped me as far as getting promoted and things like that. So 100% thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Team 506. Let me add a few images here, and then we'll dive right into the discussion part of this show. I had an image that I wanted to share. I just got to find it. Maybe it's in here. Nope. Dad, burn it. I lost it. Back up here. That ain't where I wanted to be. That ain't where I wanted to be either. Okay, I know I have one. It's just a matter of finding it. There we go. I'm adding an image for later to share with you guys. Still gonna wait a few more minutes to get some viewers in here, get some questions coming in. I'm gonna give a little backstory real quick before we dive into your questions. So hang tight with the questions, Amber. I'm about to give a little backstory on Cassandra Casey Elkins. This is all on page. So if you've read the first book, you've heard this before. If you haven't read the first book and you only read the second book, you've heard a paraphrased version of this. So I'm gonna give you the extended version, not the paraphrased. So Cassandra Lynn Elkins, aka Casey, was born in Blacksburg, South Carolina in the late 80s, early 90s. She lived a happy life until she was 18 and her powers kicked in. She was able to manipulate Rye without training. And what you need to understand about this universe, Rye is everything. A federal agency that operates in cloak and dagger environments outside the law, outside of reality, called the Regional Investigators of Preternatural Crimes Department, the RIPD, recruited her. Just straight up kidnapped her from her house and called it recruiting. Took her to train to harness her abilities and taught her that in the Carolinas and the rest of the world, everything that goes bump in the dark exists. All fairy tales have some grounding in reality. Casey quickly learns that everything she ever learned as a child that was supposed to be a moral story and teach you a lesson really happened. There's archives of information on werewolves and vampires and Sasquatch and Bigfoot and the Yeti. Everything is there. Every word of mouth story that has been passed down from generation to generation and finally was written down actually happened through RIPD archives. And Casey was assigned Mick Parker. He was based off nobody I know. Mick Parker took Casey. He saw something special in her. He trained her to be an agent. And all agents were supposed to do initially with RIPD was capture the supernatural, preternatural creatures. Until the late 1800s, when laws were passed that enabled them to be treated as citizens of the realm. And there's laws governing the preternatural, like there's laws that govern humankind and mortals. It is thought to be by the RIPD that all preternatural, supernatural beings are immortal, not mortal. And so with that, I took creative liberties because the word immortal doesn't mean you can't die in my world. It means you're not mortal. Everything can die. It just takes a lot more to kill an immortal being than a mortal being. And that's the premise of the series. Casey is testing her mortality by and her moral code by trying to uphold human and preternatural laws as she completes these investigations, as she tracks down these preternatural criminals. In the first book, the idol. It centers around the idol of Lycoan, which I took from um, a Greek proverb, I guess you could say, a Greek story. Um, King Lycoan was a mortal king in Greece history. He grew tired of the gods of Olympus and wanted to trick them, so he invited Zeus to his kingdom, tried to feed Zeus mortal flesh. Zeus caught on and cursed him to turn into a werewolf at the first full moon. And it just so happened that that led to the birth of the first lichens in my story and in real life. That's where the idea of a werewolf came from, and I took that and added it to my lore to delve into it. Well, Lycoan decided to put all of his power into an idol, which is a wolf-based skull, wolf-shaped skull. I'll get it out eventually. During the using this wolf-shaped skull, he can force other people to turn into a lichen, whether or not they are one, and he can unwillingly control them through the idol. So it's a very dangerous artifact. It was stolen from the museum in Blacksburg, which I had a viewer ask me, why would something so powerful be put into a rinky-dink town like Blacksburg? Government. That's the only answer I have for that one. Government. Anyways, Casey is assigned to Blacksburg, or assigned to the Carolinas, because at the point in Hometown Justice Hostile when she's introduced, the Carolinas have no investigator present. She chose Blacksburg as her hometown because that's where, as her home base, because that's her hometown. She knows more about it, and it ties into the hometown justice side of things. She wants justice for her hometown, so that's where the character is at. Her abilities: she can sense Rye, she can read Rye, which is very difficult. Even the Golden Trio from Hometown Justice can't read it. She can tell Rye apart. She can tell if it was created by a human, by a vampire, by a lichen, by a demon. She has that ability, and she has the ability to conjure all of her Rye up into a single shot and release it through her fingertip, her palm, or her gun. 9 times out of 10, for better aiming purposes, she uses her gun. It has been a special made gun by RIPD, so it doesn't break down the parts inside of it when her Rye fires through it. She calls this technique the Rye shot. It has been seen once in Hometown Justice, in Hometown Justice Hostile, and then it was seen again in The Idol, and it's seen again in The Daywalker. Also in The Daywalker, you get a second version of the Rye shot by a new character that was introduced there. But that'll be a different story for another day. Casey is described in the book as petite. She's 5'1", extremely skinny, but she's attractive, and that makes her, to the big bad vampires and lichens and stuff that she faces down, they consider her weak because she's attractive and she's petite. And that's the way the character was designed. I want people to underestimate her. I want everyone she goes against to underestimate her, so that they're humiliated when she inevitably gets the upper hand. And it's by design. I admit that it is by design. Okay, guys, I'm through talking. It's time for questions. I gave you as much as I can without giving away too much of the plot. Let's jump into the questions. While I'm waiting for the first questions to come in, I would like to remind people Hometown Justice Homecoming is on sale on Amazon right now. The book has been discounted for physical copies, $8.10 from its original price of $18. and the Kindle edition has been discounted to $2.99 from the original price of $8. Check them out on there. Scott Larson, how are you doing today, sir? I'm doing just fine. I just made a couple announcements and gave a little bit more details about Casey Elkins. We had to cut yesterday's episode short, so we're continuing it today. I also mentioned that going forward, since I'm moving to first shift, my shows will now be taking place at 5 p.m. at the earliest, 7 p.m. at the latest. Tomorrow's show will be 6 p.m. on the dot. But today we're finishing up talking about Special Agent Cassandra Casey Lynn Elkins. Yesterday's show, Scott, if you missed it, it's available on YouTube and Facebook right now, and Twitch. But if you missed it, we talked about Amber Collins and Casey Elkins for a little bit, and then we had to cut the show short. So I'm coming back on today to finish talking about Casey. See, guys, I told you, Amber and Caitlin, my wife and oldest daughter, they're the driving force behind the Casey Elkins series. So, much like with Hometown Justice, when I wrote Hometown Justice, I lived in Blacksburg, and I didn't know a whole lot about Blacksburg at that point in time. I knew Pokeful, so I used Pokeful as the setting. When I started writing Casey Elkins, I lived in Gaffney. I didn't know a whole lot about Gaffney, but I knew Blacksburg, so I wrote Casey Elkins set in Blacksburg, with the backdrop of Blacksburg being her home base because that's where she's from, like the person she's based off of. That's where I met said person, in Blacksburg High School. So I figured I'd go ahead and give her a little bit of backstory, attaching her to that. This is a good question, Miss Blue. Casey carries a gun because some things that go bump in the night are immune to her special powers. Some things that go bump in the night are immune to guns. She's covered at all costs. Now, the gun combining with her special powers is just for aim. But, like, there's a villain in the second book. He absorbs her special power, so she has to resort to silver covered bullets in order to do damage to him. That's why she carries a gun. The things that go bump in the night, they adapt to whatever they're fighting against. So if she's fighting them with her special powers, they adapt to that, and then she has to adapt to the fight. So she stays able to do what she does, and it's also a government agency. They gave her a gun to begin with. You're the first person that's asked that question, Miss Baloo. I give you credit for that one. That was a good question. Also, you don't have to thank me for making Casey short. My best friend that she's based off of is short, and my kids call her Aunt Short Short. I called her Shorty McShort Short our entire friendship. So Casey is based off of her, and she's short, so I wasn't gonna make her super tall or anything like that. I stayed as true to the person as I could with this one. So I hope I answered yours and Amber's questions thoroughly. I'm sure you will. As I said, there is a huge Avenger style crossover planned for much later in the series of Hometown Justice. And the timeline I play with the Casey Elkins book is fluid. So the idol takes place immediately after Hometown Justice Hostile, but the Daywalker takes place between. I'm not talking about Hostile. Good grief. The idol takes place after Aftermath, but the Daywalker takes place after Hostile for the first part of the book. The second part of the book takes place after the second book in the second trilogy. So bear that in mind while you're reading it. Simple. If I get stuck and I don't know which character I'm going to use as a villain, I do the spinning wheel and choose a character at random. For the most part, the bad guys are based off of people in my life that were bullies or have wronged me in some way, shape, or form. I'll use the character of Vince Raymond. We discussed him already. Vince is based off my friend Vinny Ryman. And while Vinny and I didn't start off best of friends, we had a rivalry. And so I made him a character. I made his character start off that way. He's a quote unquote rival to the main trio, and he gets a redemption arc, and then he'll become friends with them. Same thing with the Casey Elkins characters. There's going to be characters that start out as enemies and become friends. There's going to be characters that start out as friends and become enemies. I'll use another analogy for this question, though. As everybody knows, I'm a gamer. I play video games, much to the dismay of most of my family. I play video games. I play my fair share of WWE video games, and in the past years, they've done GM mode, which is like you take control of a show and you book it the way you want to book it. And I'm not saying this. I'm not saying all bookers have this problem, but I did as a pretend booker for WWE. My problem was deciding who was a heel, who was a face, who was the good guy, who was the bad guy, who the crowd was gonna cheer for, who the crowd was gonna dislike. And that's when I came up with the idea for the spinning wheel at random if I had trouble deciding. Now, in the WWE games, when you're doing GM mode, at least in 2K25, GM mode lets you flip them. In the original GM mode, you couldn't flip them. If they were the bad guy in that game, they stayed a bad guy unless you went through a bunch of hula hoops and loop-de-loops and flip-flops to get them to where you want them to be at. It was a harder work to get somebody that was a bad guy to be a good guy. But 2K25 helped me pick this system that I use, and I'm sure as a booker yourself, a promoter yourself, you've encountered that. And I'm telling you now, sometimes randomizing is the best way to go. Oh. I'm trying to find a character in one of the books. Hold on. Give you an example here. Writing the story, Amber's favorite character, Allison, was never originally supposed to be the most hated character in the books. She was supposed to be the love interest, and that was it. A last second editing decision made her the most hated person in the books, equivalent to Dolores Umbridge in Harry Potter. Because let's face it, Voldemort was the enemy in the Harry Potter books, but everybody hated Dolores Umbridge worse than they hated Voldemort. I would have been personally okay with Voldemort living over Allison Jurgens. I mean, over Dolores Umbridge, if that had been a choice. But and Amber feels the same way about Allison over Tommy Leon's. I know, Amber, that's the joke. That is the joke. She says not her favorite character. That is the entire joke. That's the reason I will continue saying it's your favorite character. I want to give a shout out to my little buddy, Tai Tai. He's watching the show with his mama. Tai Tai, I love you. For those of you that don't know, Tai Tai is my youngest son. Born October 27th. He's happy and healthy, and he loves watching my show with his mama. Sometimes that's the only way she can get to shut up. When he's in one of his moods and wants to just blabber and cry and yell, she turns on my show while I'm at work and lets him watch it. That's why I try my best to make these shows last at least an hour. But again, back to Amber's favorite, not so favorite character. She was never supposed to be the most hated character in the series. Just the editing decision to throw in that underlying love story and give the flashback where she where the trauma happened. That made her the most hated person in the series at this point. Ugh. Yeah, in the Casey Elkins series, Miss Blue, Amber's favorite character is Amber Collins because it's based on her. She likes Casey. Don't get me wrong. She thought Casey was kick ass, but she likes the character based on her. If you missed yesterday's show about Amber Collins, the character was born because my wife was jealous of a fictional character not being based on her, so I had to put a character based on her in the story. And the character Amber Collins was born. Originally, Amber's name in the series was Amy Collins, and I figured that would confuse readers about Amy Ruler and Amy Collins. So I changed the name and decided to keep the letter A and used Amber. And I guarantee you, Amber's next comment's going to say, "I was not jealous." When me and the co-author know you were. Or Amber's completely gone from the show. She's not responding. So see, told you she was not. She's going to put she was not jealous. Anyways, Need I remind the viewers at home, I cannot control what my other viewers put in the comment section. So if you got a problem with cussing, now's probably the time to turn off your computer screen and go watch something else. Miss Blue, I'm going to ask you this question. Have you read any of the books? One moment. Sorry about that. I had a phone call. It interrupted me, but hey, we're ready to roll. We can do this. It ain't no biggie. All right, Miss Blue. So you've read Hometown Justice, Homecoming, and Rebellion, correct? I will do my best to get you a copy of The Idol and The Daywalker, so you can read the Casey Elkins versions or the Casey Elkins series. You don't have to read Aftermath to understand what's going on. Aftermath just introduces the character of Casey Elkins and sets up her relationship with Alex Ruler. And it's a backdoor pilot if you're talking about TV shows. It was introduced a character, and then the character gets a spin-off show of their own. So you don't have to read it. Just know there's a lot of references in the first book to what happens in Hostile. There's some references in the Daywalker to the Alex and Casey relationship. But I'll get them to you as soon as I can. I'm not making any promises to get them to you within the next month, but as soon as I can get them to you, I'll put them in your hands, signed, stamped. And then when you read them, we can bring you on and you can discuss them with me. Sound like a deal? Yeah, I bet you forgot. Sweet. Can't wait, Miss Blue. I'm going to go ahead and set it up right now to where I can get copies of both those books just for you. You ain't got to thank me. I knew you was going to ask this. That's why I uploaded this. Where's it at? Where's it at? Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Casey. And if you're wondering why the Phoenix is back there behind her, I can explain the Phoenix. The artist that drew Ty, Ken, and Alex was drawing their spirit animals behind them, the tiger, the dragon, and the ape. He read through the books, and there's a scene in Hostile, and there's a scene in The Daywalker where Ty's cousin Jeet is training Alex, Ty, Ken, and Casey in Hostile, and just Casey in The Daywalker. And Jeet refers to Casey as her Phoenix. So he put the Phoenix in the background. Does that mean there's going to be more coming out of it? That was just a throwaway line. It's a nickname that Jeet gave Casey, but it could possibly lead to something else developed in the future. Just bear with me. Thoughts on the picture, Amber? The only thing I will say about this picture, it doesn't do Casey justice. Again, she's described as incredibly attractive. Now Now, I'm not saying this artist didn't draw the character attractive, but I'm trying to appeal to both female and male readers, so I go into some exasperated details about Casey's appearance, and the character, the artist did not put those characteristics on the character. So it's not what you pictured, and I have an idea who you pictured. Don't say her name. I don't want to get beat up, but what did you picture? Like, what describe the character you pictured? I agree. The picture was wonderful. However, like I said, they failed to fully grasp the beauty of the character. Um, but I'm not complaining. It was done free, and uh, can't complain about free. They asked me to advertise their artwork. I did. So so that's the only thing that was done differently. The character in question, the Casey Elkins that I designed with my co-author, is supposed to be a a brunette, but she doesn't have brown hair. She's ashamed of her brown hair, so she dyes it bright red. That never happened, so I didn't make add the character to the books yet. There's going to be a book where Casey drastically changes her image, and I'm waiting. I'm writing that as we speak. Uh, ask a question about the books. Go ahead. I'll ask any and all questions this time. We're not just talking about Casey anymore. Casey was assigned to the Carolinas because the Carolinas had no designated RIPD agent operating in the field, and they want her to establish a RIPD agency down there in the Carolinas. She chose Blacksburg as her base of operations because she knows the town better than she knows any other town. Hope that answers your question. Definitely considering that, but there's a reason behind the bright red um, color choice for the character, and it ties back into the Phoenix thing. So we'll see. Oh yes, she definitely questions her life. There's a scene in closer to the end of the Idol where she is asking that very question to Mick and to Alex at the same time. So now I need to point out that the character of Alex doesn't physically appear in the Casey Elkins the Idol book. They communicate through video calls and phone calls. In the Daywalker, he makes a brief appearance physically, and you get to see how grounded in reality I have made the relationship between the two of them. But Miss Baloo, that's also part of her moral testing too. Um, her mortality testing. She knows these things exist that are immortal. She knows there's ways to kill them, but she's always questioning, why do I have to decide to do it? Why do I have to decide who gets to live and who gets to die? Why do I have to be judge, jury, and executioner? Those are the types of questions she asks herself over the course of the story. More technical issues have just risen. I was fixing those. Bear with me, guys. Hold on just a second. So, what is Casey's track record for solving cases and catching criminals? Prior to the start of The Idol, she was 15 for 15 in major cases, solving them. As far as catching criminals, prior to The Idol, she wasn't Batman. She didn't have a no kill code. So she caught the criminals, but they didn't exactly get justice in the justice system. They got justice at the other end of her weapon. So her record for catching criminals, she holds the RIPD's record for most successful kills at 212. That's going to be explored in the third book. You're going to learn more about her history prior to The Idol and why she's having trouble upholding these new laws that have been passed when in the old days it was just running guns blazing. She sort of develops a no-kill code in The Idol because of Aiden and his Kentacorp technology creating rye dampening holding cells to keep lichens in check, to keep vampires in check. This question is hard to answer. On one hand, the answer is yes, but on the other hand, she doesn't want to kill them, if that makes any sense. If you read the first book, The Idol, in the first scene, I read a bit of it yesterday, the introduction scene of Amber Collins. If you read further than what I read, Amber asks Casey about Braden Mitchell, and that is Casey's ex-husband or ex-boyfriend. They were married for a brief stint. He was abusive, and then RIP came a calling, and she hasn't looked back yet. Theoretically, RIPD has made Braden believe she's dead, and that the marriage is voided. So Casey has ghosts, and it is suspected that he's the one that stole the idol in The Idol. Read the book to find out what happens there, though. Batman has a no-kill code. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It was a great question from Miss Baloo. It's not off topic. We're talking about everybody now. Let me pull this up. Hold on. Will Mick Parker ever come out of retirement? Yes and no. It's planned for him to come out of retirement, but he may not. I have a vision for him to come out of retirement. I have a solid story, a solid plot, but I don't think it's ever going to come to fruition. It may or may not. And guys, viewers, I love the questions about the side characters that aren't really physically in the book. He communicates with Casey via phone call, via video call, and got people like Amber asking questions about him. Will we ever find out how Casey learned to manipulate Rye, since we know that she can without the training Alex, Ken, and Ty have? You may learn that if I have enough interest in a prequel to her series. I have had someone approach me and ask me to write a short story about her first case. So you might get that if I get the details in line for this short story. And when I say a short story, I mean 10 chapters, no more. So I may write that and publish it and present it to everybody to read as like a prequel to the Casey Elkin series. Oh, there's one more person interested. Amber, you might get your wish. Mr. Jeff Ward, thank you for liking the podcast. Please share it. I would appreciate it. Unfortunately, guys, I've got to go pick up my child from school. So I have to cut the short. It's been over an hour. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, tomorrow night, 6 p.m., we're bringing more questions about the Casey Elkins series. We're going to discuss it. Caitlin will be with me, ask her questions about reading the book. And we'll discuss her favorite character in book 1. We'll discuss her favorite character in book 2. We'll go ahead and cover book 2 tomorrow, 6 p.m. Remember that, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Come prepared to dive in.